Prince Mashele doesn't have kind words for the nation of Zimbabwe. And he's actually arguing, trying to place the policies of the EFF and probably the left-wing parties in South Africa to always remember Zimbabwe. He really actually argues that the whole Mahabambe problem, that's the sending back of foreigners from South Africa, is a lost cause. But at the end of the day, he sees Zimbabwe as a hopeless case and that the Zimbabweans are stuck in South Africa, if possible, forever. Let's quickly listen to his analysis on that, and I'll be back for an interesting analysis.
Zimbabwe is a mess. There's no doubt about it. Zimbabwe is the opposite of Botswana.
Will it get any better?
No. Here is the thing. You see, ZANU-PF has criminalized Zimbabwean society. It has perverted it. Crime, corruption, chaos is now culture in Zimbabwe. And once something becomes culture, it is very difficult to change it. So the idea that if you want a document, a passport, for example, from a Zimbabwean government office, you will get it without paying a bribe. If you told Zimbabweans that, they would laugh at you and say you have smoked something. Because that's not how it works. In Zimbabwe, everything you pay a bribe. I mean, I have relatives in Zim, by the way. My nephews, my nieces are married to Zimbabweans and got family. I've been to Zim. I have a story of a family, an elderly family member who broke a leg and went to a public hospital somewhere in Bulawayo. The family had to bribe a doctor in order for this family member to be operated on. The doctors used to pass her for months, a broken leg. The doctors just didn't operate on her until a bribe was paid in hospital. Man, can you imagine that? That's Zimbabwe for you. To change that, my friend, you need decades of progressive authoritarianism. I don't know if you are going to get that. The second thing about why you can't change that Zimbabwe thing is the involvement and the enmeshment of the military in politics. You see, ZANU-PF and the military are the same thing. That's why even Mnangagwa could never have been president of Zimbabwe without a deal with the military. Right? So the head of the military, she had to engineer a coup to remove Mugabe. And they had a deal that you come in, I'm going to be your deputy. That's how it works. So when you have a military that is at the center of a country's politics, let me tell you, you can't change anything. Because they will simply blow up your head. And what are you going to do? If you make noise in Zim, they simply blow up your head. That's it. That's the end of it. So Zimbabwe is a hopeless case. That's why the cream of Zimbabwe, the intellectual cream of Zimbabwe, is out of that country. It's in South Africa, it's in the UK, some of them are in the US. And let me tell you, they will never go back.
Mr. Hopewell Shinono, my brother.
He's the only one who is making noise from there. He's the only one, and I follow him. He's the only one who's making noise from there.
I follow him too.
Yeah. It's and the stuff that he writes about, it's just out of this world.
So for the next couple of decades, we must just keep on expecting lots and lots of our Zimbabwean brothers and sisters flocking into South Africa.
There's no. Here's the thing about it. It's like Mozambicans. I remember in the 80s. I told you I come from Mpumalanga, around Bushbuck Ridge. We used to have Mozambicans flocking into South Africa through that corridor.
Yeah.
And in our villages, by the way, they used to be given land to settle there. And let me tell you, those people who flocked into South Africa in the 80s are now South Africa. All of them have IDs. There's no such a thing that people who, out of a conflict, they go to this part of the world and they settle there and they go back. No, they don't go back. They actually integrate with the society. I mean, Zimbabweans in many ways have integrated with South African society. You may like it or you don't like it. They are going nowhere. Some of them may still visit this and that, but I can tell you, those who are settled in South Africa will live in South Africa. They will have children in South Africa, and those children will be South Africans, whether you like it or not. In any case, that's how South Africa, by the way, came about. Most people have no idea. South Africa came about through a process like that. I mean, people in the Northwest, what are they? They are South African. They are South Africans by citizenship because they've got IDs. But these people have relatives in Botswana. Historically, they've got a relationship with Botswana. People in Mpumalanga, right? The whole corridor from Mpumalanga, from Komazi, all the way to by the way, not even Bushbuck all the way to Limpopo, Punda Maria. Those people historically come from Mozambique, even though it was not even Mozambique, it was Lorenzo Marx. But they have never gone back and they will never go back. And there are many parts of South Africa, I can give you more examples of that. So they are not going back, yes. You must just live with the reality that these are our brothers and sisters. They are here to stay.
Yeah, so it's quite unfortunate, this whole problem with foreigners in South Africa, and it's attached to the whole Zama problem, the whole Spaza Shops problem, that Patriotic Alliance actually spearheaded during their campaigns. But it's a complex issue, the whole thing with foreigners, illegal foreigners, how to allow for a pure South African culture to emerge. And if you listen to the likes of Gary Player in the last video I made, he's also not happy with the whole open border policy that the ANC adopted, especially during the time of Mandela, in his attempt to show a certain kind of solidarity with the nations around, the African nations around, as South Africa emerged from the apartheid era into independence. But now that has actually opened the door to what many South Africans are not happy about, and it's a natural instinct to that evolves then into a xenophobic so to speak attitude, because at the end of the day it's difficult to see outsiders thrive in your own country, so to speak. So these are kind of like the issues that then give birth to what we now today refer to South Africans, especially those of us who are not South African. We see South African as xenophobic. But at the end of the day, it speaks to a presence of an economic structure that impacts structural violence upon the majority in the land. And then also the problem of the open borders, where there are outsiders who have a leeway to get into the country and get to work and all that at a lower rate. And while the people who are actually South Africans themselves are not able to get into those opportunities. I think I saw a really interesting video as well of this one of the guys from Dudula who actually argued that South Africans are not even able to have a spaza shop, so to speak, that they do. Let's quickly listen to what he actually argues here.
And then we've received also a complaint, as you can see on the other side, it's Lenasia South, where 95% of the populations are Indians. Yesterday I did support their march with Pumlamkash, and they told me a simple thing to say. Before 94, they used to run these tech shops, but because the government doesn't care about them, they've neglected them. Everything now is in the hands of foreigners. All the shops all over around, they are operated by foreigners, even here inside this mall. It's foreigners who are operating shops. So South Africans who are no longer benefiting all over, even around here, if you move around, it's hawkers that are selling, and they are from different countries, which as operation within the community and all progressive organizations, we want to reclaim our local economy.
The landlords of these foreign spaza shop owners are South Africans. Are they also being held accountable at this point?
They are not held accountable, but before we blame the landlords, let's start from the root cause. Who allowed these foreigners to come and operate in South Africa illegally with fake documents? Some they don't even have documents. I used to hawk. I used to be a hawker. I used to barb in the street in Bramley. Police were raiding us. They closed my barber shop, but they left a Ghanaian guy who was suing to operate. Even here in South Africa, it's happening. Before we say the landlords made a mistake, let's conscientize them. Let's tell them that what we are doing, it is wrong.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's really easy to see why xenophobia seems to be the order of the day in South Africa, because it's actually a disenfranchisement of those who own the land. This takes me back also to many histories around the world where the people always then turn their anger to the foreigner, that the foreigner has taken our job, the foreigner. It's not the South African issue alone, but just that South Africans' issue with xenophobia usually takes a violent phase, and at the end of the day, that actually appears that South Africans are the only xenophobic xenophobic people, but it actually occurs all across the world, and we have to understand these issues and how they build up. So ZANU-PF doesn't have a really good picture in the minds of Prince Mashele. Zimbabwe as well, the breakdown of Zimbabwe from the really prosperous Rhodesia to Zimbabwe. I'll be doing a really interesting documentary on Rhodesia, and that will be the basis of the members only content I'll be having on Kwazame, because I want to really carry out a series of documentaries that understand the presence of the white in Africa. So in the likes of Rhodesia, in apartheid South Africa, we really want to get in depth to really understand the economic structures, how those agents really saw the future of these nations that have actually become South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe today, and that the whole fight with the whole black liberation movement. We really need a lot of deep histories on that, and I'll be doing that in the members only area. So you guys should stay tuned for those series of videos. But anyway, what do you guys think about Prince Mashele's arguments here in this video here? Share your thoughts in the comments.